Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Dennis. So last week we did a part 1. I was going to do a part 2, but things have changed. So this will be part 2, which just means it's going to lead on to other videos, but they're not necessarily going to be parts anymore. So in the last video, basically just to sum up for those that didn't watch it, I took the radiator off of my test bench and put a aftermarket cooler on it, the 5600X stock cooler, just for now. I want to use that, but I was going to put it in my Corsair case. So the Corsair case, however, kind of like it, and I'm trying to decide if that's going to be moving down where my computer for this system is now. And so kind of what I've decided is I don't know what I'm doing with the Corsair case yet, but for now I'm going to take the PureBase 500 FX, that's the newer version of their PureBase 500 with the RGB and all that kind of good stuff. I'm going to mount the 360 AIO water cooler in the front. Apparently you can do that. We're going to find out because that's what I'm about to do. To show you how that's going to go in the front of the case. Because it won't take a 360 on the top, unfortunately. And I still kind of want to have it water cooled for the CPU I'm going to put in there. Which I'm thinking, I'm going to put my 7000 series. I got the Ryzen 9 7900X. So I'm going to put it in there instead. And that's how we're going to go. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to get the case. I'll show it to you. I'll show you the Corsair case I was going to go into. And then we're going to install the 360 AIO into the case to show you how it fits in there. And that's all it is. There's no testing, no temps, no nothing. When I actually build the system in this case, maybe the next video, we'll have to see how things go. We'll see how it all goes together then. So let's have a look at the Corsair case. Let's have a look at the PureBase FX from Be Quiet case. And I'll show you how that's going to go. So let's get on with it. Okay, so this is the Corsair case. I really like it. And the the MSI MPG X570 will go in this. So there'll be a video on both of those just dedicated to just that. So with a stock cooler, I can simply take this motherboard out, put the other one in. There's a little bit of unplugging things, plugging them back in, but that's not what we're going to do today. So the first few things that you have to do, which I have to admit, taking the front panel cover off is ridiculously hard on this case. So anyway, once you manage to pry that off, and I do warn you to be careful because it's plastic that goes through here, these pins, and honestly had me worried that it might break. Not saying it's going to, but just something to be aware of. It does have little things on the inside. You can put some pressure on to try and force that out, but you can't even get to the other side. I took the side panel off. You can get to it a little bit in here, but you can't get to all of them. This one is very difficult to get at. All right, so anyhow, just be aware of that. So that's the first thing you have to do. The other thing I noticed is on our radiator, we have these fans already. But because they include them in the case, I'm not sure that when I turn this, now the other thing, which I'll show you first actually before we get onto this, is the hard drive gauge. So in order to get the radiator in there, I had to move it over. There's 2 screws here, pops out, pops back in, so that's all I did. But it does restrict the amount of room you have for your power supply. So once I moved that, it opened up a gap. And now you can see there's a gap here. Okay, so now you can see that after I've done that, there's a gap here. But I don't think it's wide enough to keep the fans I have on it now. So I think I have to take the fans off, put them in here, or unless I have to take the hard drive cage out completely in order to mount it in there. So that's my first foray into whether this will work or not. I know it will work. I've seen it done. Just how complicated it is or not is another story. So it will mean that your cables come down, your pump is on the top. So that's not an issue. It goes down and goes onto your CPU. This bracket in the back, luckily, is easy to take off. So let me show you that. So even though your hub is on here, you have one screw right here. Unscrew that. This will pop right off. You can work on it, do everything you need to do, and then pop it back on. So that's just something, so if you need to take that off, you know that you can. Okay, so I've had a couple things. So a couple things I've been doing is trying to figure out exactly how this goes in. I wasn't sure if I had to take the case fans out. Turns out I don't have to take the case fans out. I can leave them in place. The screws, the longer screws that came with the radiator, okay, these ones here, all right, those ones are going to be used going from the fans in the front of the case. Once we have our radiator in place, we'll have to hold it in place, get the screws started, and then the air from the front is going to blow in through the rad to cool down. Now, I actually think that's a better way to go anyway. But I have to see what happens when I actually do this, just to see how it all goes. So right now I've taken 2 of the fans off. I've got 1 left to take off, and then we're going to put it in the case. So one thing you have to keep in mind is the screws on the bottom, okay, you're going to have to turn the back of the case and come in here with your screwdriver to get these out before you can put your radiator in. Okay, so what I've done, so far I've only got the top 2 just down to here with the screws going in it. And again, it's the longer screws. Goes in here and then goes into your radiator. Now you're going to have to play a little bit. I had to raise it up quite a bit for everything to match up the way I want it to. So once you've got this at the right height, you're going to have to play around a little bit to get your first couple screws in. So don't over tighten them or anything, like don't tighten them down too much, just enough to hold them in place. Because what you're going to want to do afterward is put your second one in, and then you're going to want to level it off so that it's as level as you can get it. And then once you've done that and everything's squared up, all the other fans are going to go in properly, and you're just going to have to lift them up, line them up, put your other screws in here. They'll all fit in the right spot. You won't even really need to look at them. I didn't have to disconnect anything from the case at all, okay, except taking out the small screws and putting in the longer screws. And that allows me to keep everything that's already plugged in there, and I'm good to go. So what does that do? Okay, so you bought a 360 rad. Your fans, you had to take them off, so you got 3 extra fans. No problem. You have room for at least 2 of them up here, and you'll have 1 extra for a spare if you want to buy a different case or whatever it might be. And you got a hub to go with it. All right, you don't always get that with some systems. So pretty much I'm going to finish screwing this in. Maybe I can't really fire it up. So basically that's all there is to it. Put all that in, fasten up your screws, and your pump is going to be ready. So your pump's going to set here. And once I'm all done, okay, this is going to go somewhat like this. I'm going to have to play around with it and see. And maybe I'm going to have to play with these a little bit. I don't know. We're going to have to find out. It'll probably set like that. So with these going down. So it's going from the pump going in and then circulating back. But your pump is setting up here, goes down, back up. So everything's good. All right, just to keep that so you know how everything's going to go. At this point, I'm basically ready to put my motherboard in and do the install. The next video won't be a part 3. This is basically it, because the other one is going to be simply me doing a build. All right, everybody. So again, that's part 2. Not the build itself, but prepping for it. So build part 1, build part 2. The actual next video is just going to be the build. There's not going to be a part 3. I wanted to make sure with the 7000 series CPU, I could cool it as much as I could. So now that I know I can in this case has really good airflow, I'm good to go. So stay tuned for the next video. I've already kind of told you what it is. We'll see how I dice it up and show it to you, so it makes a little more sense, and show you the final product. Anyhow, installation's done in the actual case that I wanted to put it in. 7000 series CPU with the motherboard. That's all going to happen. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, hit that like if you liked it. Hit that bell for notifications for videos as they come up, so you can keep track of what the heck I'm doing. And as always, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.